All right, guys, welcome to the mindset module here. Arguably my favorite out of the entire program, although I said that once before with something related to AI. So in my top 5 at the very least. So here's what we're going to cover today really quickly: identifying where those limiting beliefs, if you have any, where they come from, eradicating those, and then making sure that you are operating in your job search with unshakable confidence, regardless of what happens throughout the process. So your ability, and we've talked about this before, we will harp on this again and again throughout this program, your ability to build a meaningful career really relies on 3 things: your your mindset and belief patterns, a proven system, which you now have, that brings predictable results. We know with 100% certainty whether or not you have skipped any of the steps in this program, because whenever you go from start to finish and you do these steps in chronological order, they work every single time. So don't skip any steps. 3, as I just kind of hinted to there, making sure you are executing that system correctly. Now, in this module, as I mentioned, we are going to cover your mindset. A really important part. It's going to sound a little woo-woo, but just have a little trust, have a little faith here. Why this matters, simply put, even if you have the right strategy, and we've seen this happen before, building a meaningful career, let alone like the crappy job search part of it, comes with a ton of challenges, as does life in general. So things that are setbacks, things that are disappointments, things that are self-doubt, imposter syndrome, whatever comes up along the way, whether this is professionally or personally, we do genuinely care about both of those for you when we are going through this. Without a strategy and without knowing how to control your mind, it is going to feel like pure chaos most of the time. So there's going to be things that will derail most people during the job search. Companies giving you the runaround, applications going unread, people ghosting you, especially recruiters. That's a pet peeve of mine. Applications getting rejected, interviews getting rejected, lacking clarity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and a million and one other variables that may come into play. Now, something that's very important for you to know, whether you fall into one of these categories or you think there's some secret sauce for one of these categories, even the world's smartest people, top Harvard MBA grads, ex-Mang or Fang, C-suite people, they all feel these mindset issues, so to speak, at one point or another, to the point where they did a study on the GOATs, the greatest of all time across different industries: business, finance, arts, athletics, all of the things, relationships. And the 3 things that they found in common among all of the greatest of all time, they had this idea that they could be great at something. Then they had this borderline crippling insecurity that they would never be good enough. And then they had the discipline to just put in the small tasks each day, knowing, like, following the strategy, executing the strategy to actually become great. So even the greatest of all time, I don't care if you're Oprah, Tom Brady, whatever the case may be, they all have those insecurities. It's just a matter of what you do, how you channel those. So the key here is going to be developing a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. Bear with me here for a minute, because what got you where you are today, all of the successes that you have, the good, the bad, the ugly of today, it is not going to be the same things that will get you where you want to be. You are going to have to grow. You are, more importantly, going to have to be willing to grow. And that oftentimes means being uncomfortable. So mindset growth is going to begin with, as I mentioned, developing that growth mindset, meaning being a forever student. So your mindset, as it says here, is a set of beliefs around what is actually possible in your life. And a growth mindset means being able to realize that where you're at now is not where you want to be. There is a gap that you get to traverse to become who it is that you want to be. Now, the very important thing, this was life-changing for me. One of my very first mentors, he actually even wrote a book on this, told me, hey, Katie, don't kid yourself. And what KID stands for is knowing isn't doing. Just because you know something it's not even a relevant thing. Just knowing the strategy is not the same as taking imperfect action. And yes, for all of you type A perfectionists, you will have to take imperfect action throughout this process. And if you are really uncomfortable with that, let us know. I'll give you a tool to help with that, but it is going to be uncomfortable. So a couple of things that I want you to just realize when we talk about growth mindset. What those traits actually look like is being able to identify the skills you want to build. being able to make tiny little incremental improvements to your flaws over time, celebrating, this is so important, again, for any of you perfectionists out there, celebrating the process of improvement, progress over the outcome. Outcome perfection, that will take care of itself if you focus on the inputs. Embracing challenges, embracing those obstacles that come up, genuinely viewing them as stepping stones that are helping you close this gap between where you are to where you want to become, or to who you want to become. And really embracing, again, we do work with a lot of high performers, and this is something that we need to drill into their heads oftentimes. Failure is a part of success. It is not the opposite of success. You do not, my favorite analogy for this is you do not get to grow muscles in the gym by perfectly, making every single rep. There will be points of, picture a bench press. There will be points where you actually hit failure. And if you can hold your bench press in quote unquote failure, hopefully you have a spotter, you will do more, you will grow your muscles more in those 5 to 10 seconds of holding under failure than you will with easy reps. Success in work, success in relationships, finance, all of the other things, it's all the same process there. So knowing that you will get better with time, effort, and persistence. Now, those people, especially folks in this program, they do struggle with their mindset. It's difficult. It is not just your own mindset. There's so many studies out there now that show that our mindset, our beliefs are passed down generationally, decades and decades of entrenched beliefs that have been ingrained in us. Things in your lifetime, even bullying, education, your social circle, how you were raised, outdated, like your parents' belief patterns, and any information that you, whether you choose or you do not choose, any information that you are consuming is going to create that mindset imprint. So we need to proactively, actively change that. And I don't care how old you are, there is plenty of proof out here. I will put some of the one fancy word, actually, probably in this entire program, is brain plasticity. There is so much proof out there that your brain is able to reorganize these neural pathways throughout your life based on your experience. Now, cool part about this is your brain can't actually tell the difference between something that you think and something that actually happened. So you're going to be able to, by the end of this program, by the end of this module, we're going to give you the tactical steps that you can implement to actually change the way your brain, the way your neural pathways are forming, what they're forming, what you think, how you feel, so that you can have this growth mindset. So it's kind of a cliche, kind of cheesy, but it is one of the most accurate things that really has shaped, really makes a difference between the folks who thrive in this program and the folks who struggle through this program, that we need to spend added time in this mindset little bubble. So mindset is going to form your actions, your daily actions, your actions when you're in crisis, your actions when you're in opportunity. Your actions will then form your habits. Your habits will then form your character, and your character, who you are, really determines your destiny here and what you're capable of doing. So the fundamental belief of success, again, this is in any arena, landing a job, having a successful marriage, whatever you are trying to deem, whatever you're trying to make improvements in, you can always adapt and grow out of your current situation. And usually you know that you need to grow out of your current situation because of pain. Pain is usually the indicator. A lot of people try to avoid pain. Pain is actually the indicator for you that it is time for you to adapt and to grow. So I got this from Ray Dalio. He has something called the pain button. I think he even has an app for this now, where it's this concept that pain plus reflection is how you get progress. So as I mentioned, pain is a really important signal that there's something that can be and should probably be learned. When you reflect on this pain well, not dwelling in it, but when you reflect on it well, you can almost always learn something really important about yourself and, your life trajectory. So the moment you experience pain, that's a really great time to record that pain, note it down. I oftentimes will just use the Notes app on my phone, or I use the Monk Manual. It's a framework that I am just a really big fan of. So the moment you experience pain, that's when you want to record it. However, that is not the time for you to necessarily reflect on that pain, because it's really hard to have a clear head. So let's just say you were laid off. Let's say something bad happened at work. Like that was the impetus for you to join this program. When you are in that pain, that's a great time to just write it down. But then you need to take a step, take a breather, and step away from it until you have a clear head. So in the moment, you open it up, record all the emotions that you're feeling, then you can come back at a later time to reflect on that pain, whether it's later that day, later that week, whatever the case may be. But these two next points that I'm going to hammer in for the rest of this module, and anytime you talk to us, is that life is never happening to you. Any rejection, anything that happens that in the moment feels negative, this is so important for you to really, really embrace. It is not happening to you. It is always happening for you. I have a very woo-woo meditation that I'll link that below in the resources for you to ingrain into your brain that everything is always happening for your advantage, even if it doesn't feel like it in the moment. So a big way, or the easiest hack to recognize that, is to shift into being in a state of gratitude no matter what is happening. That sounds so woo-woo, that sounds so cheesy. We'll circle back to this in just a second. I want you guys to do a quick exercise. If you just close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes right now. And if I told you tomorrow, you could wake up tomorrow and you could have the career of your dreams and $1 million in your bank account, I would personally wire it over. Would you take it? Think about it for a second. Most people would say yes. Now, what if I told you could have that, all of that, but then the following day you could not wake up? You'd be dead. You'd be done. Would you take it? Would it be worth it? Now, it's a little bit morbid to think about, but what does that teach you about what you should be valuing, what you should be grateful for? Waking up is more important than money. Waking up is more important than your career. There's always going to be something that you could skew your own mind to so that you can be rooted in gratitude in each moment and make it so much easier for you to remember, sitting in that gratitude, that life is never happening to you. It is always happening for you. Now, if you are ever struggling in the moment to root in that gratitude, one of the best practices that I've come across that folks through this program have really enjoyed is just wherever you are, start at the top of your head, the very top of your head, and work inch by inch down your body, thinking of every aspect that you are grateful for. It can be as simple as, I am so grateful I have a full head of hair. I'm grateful that I don't have sunburn on my scalp right now because I just came back from a trip and that's not a fun thing to have. It can be silly. I don't care. Your forehead, I'm really grateful for the size of my forehead. My eyebrows, I'm really grateful when I go outside, like the human design, that helps my eyes be able to see better. My eyes. So grateful that I'm living in a world where I can wear contacts. Like if I was born 2,000 years earlier, I would have been one of those blind people that, whatever they believed back then about blind people, that I was a pagan or something. And you can work your way all the way down. And usually by people's throat or their stomach, their organs, they're usually they feel completely different than when they started, especially if it's something that's really unfortunate that just happened. Now, I promised I would give you a really tactical tool. I mean, that was a tactical step. The most powerful thing, I would argue that when we look at your life holistically, if there's only one resource that you actually used from this program, this one would have the biggest impact on changing the trajectory of your life. So it's going to be using your mindset pack. Now, I've got this opened here. I'm going to walk you through it very quickly. How it's very, very simple. Make a copy of this. You just click File, make a copy, entire presentation, and then you can edit it yourself. And then reading it daily. A lot of folks who go through this program, they will delete all of the social media apps from their phone during this process. And so, or whatever you generally go to as your habit of choice with your phone, if you delete it from your phone, so every time you habitually pick it up when you're bored or whatever the case may be, instead of opening TikTok, Instagram, you're opening this mindset pack and you're scrolling through it. Now, I'm not going to read through all of this. These are just some helpful things, or things that other folks have found helpful as little reminders throughout the day, and remembering the basics. So often our mindset hiccups in life come because we're not sleeping enough, we're not eating enough, we're not, moving our body enough. just making sure that you do those basics, especially those that I just mentioned, the sleep, eating, and moving your body, that is going to be life-changing. Making sure that it's going to make your mindset a lot easier to handle as well. So as you're going through this, this is going to be the first page that you edit. Now, I actually took snippets from my Real Mindset pack that I've been using since 2017. And here's the craziest part about this. Because I've been doing this since 2017, and this is ideally going to happen with you as well, the things that I first started the things that I was proud of, or the highlights of my life that back then were the biggest deal to me. Now, what happens is over time, so this is going to be like, these are little screenshots of like things that actually happened in my life that I was really proud of, and I've got them labeled here. My real one has a couple pages of this. You should have 1 to 3 pages, most likely, of these things that you are like, the things that you're most proud of in your life, whether it's graduating high school or college, getting your wife to agree to marry you, having your first kid, your first apartment, adopting a puppy, whatever the case may be, a promotion, a new job, a new company, something that stretched you, anything that you're proud of, you put it in here. And when you review this daily, a really cool thing starts to happen. Your brain starts to recognize these things. First of all, it gives you a little bit of a confidence boost because it's like, oh yeah, I've achieved some pretty cool things in my life. Now, the other side of that is a lot of these things, either right before they happened or during them happening or after they happened, there was crisis or tough things or something that stretched you outside of your comfort zone and required you to become a better version of yourself or a different version of yourself. And it's really helpful for your brain to associate and remember, like, oh yeah, like I vividly remember like not sleeping. Like if you've got a kid, obviously way harder than a dog, but like I remember regretting like hopefully he can't hear me, like getting my dog. Like it was really, really tough. It was something I arguably was not prepared for. As you can see here, I went from an apartment that I really loved. After I adopted him, I needed to move actually this house with a big old backyard because he was not an apartment dog. But every step of the way was very uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable growth for me to have. And so what happens is you rewire your brain to start looking at these uncomfortable things, getting nervous about networking, getting nervous about interviews, negotiations, whatever the case may be. Your brain starts to catalog these things as, oh yeah, this is just another one of those, and something really great is going to happen on the other side. And it hacks your brain to look at obstacles as stepping stones, as beneficial things that are happening for you, not happening to you. So go ahead and edit these out. This is going to be things that have actually already happened in your life. This one is for you to make a little collage of the things that you're really excited about happening, whether it's your dream house, people that you really look up to, goals, financial goals, having family goals, whatever the case may be. You can throw those right on here. Then your biography, starting with the end in mind. Imagine you're at your funeral. What are all the things that you want to have done at that point in your life? Really taking time to crystallize that so that your brain knows what it is you're moving towards. It knows what the best version of you is, so that anytime you are faced with a decision, you get to ask yourself, hey, is this moving me closer or further from the best version of myself? Is this going to make me the best version of myself? It's one of the greatest hacks to be able to answer that honestly, and it makes almost all of your decisions in life pretty darn simple. Not always easy, but very simple. The next things here is your identity. You get to change and you get to choose your identity. Most people don't proactively do this. Most people only reactively do this throughout their life. The first time they became a kindergartner, they were a kindergartner. The first time they were a high schooler, they were a high schooler. The first time they were, played soccer, they were a soccer player. The first time they drove, now they're a driver. The first time they had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, like now they're a girlfriend or a boyfriend. The first time you have a kid, it's like, whoa, now you're a mom, now you're a dad. Like each one of those different life events, it changed your identity. It changed how you interacted with the world. It changed your traits. It changed your behaviors. Like when you were able to actually just up and leave the house, like driving in a car, you have a new life than the day before you had that driver's license. And so each of these kind of big changes in life reactively shape and change our identity. But you can proactively do that. If you can reactively do it and become a new person, you can proactively do it as well. So this is your opportunity to really write out, like between your biography and this identity, write out what the best version of you looks like, so that when you are in the moment of frustration or needing to be patient or having to bounce back from something, you get to ask yourself, what would the best version of me do here? Like, what would that person do? How would me 3 years from now handle this situation? And that's how you proactively become that best version of yourself. This, again, making sure you've got some of those goals so that you know, okay, how does that person act? How does that person behave? What does their life look like? What are their goals? And then you each day actively making progress towards each of those things. This one's a little bit optional. Some folks have found it really helpful to have your daily anchors where it's like a non-negotiable. I'm going to get my outreach done first thing in the morning. You're not at that point yet, so you can kind of come back to this once you've got all of your tasks of the daily routine during your job search. And then you can come back to it again after your job search. You'll have, different daily anchors in that new season of life. And then, of course, some people love this, some people don't. This is a list of a bunch of affirmations that I have gotten from myself, from executives that we've worked with, from coaches, from mentors. These are all some of my favorite people, their favorite affirmations. I put them right in here. So you don't have to read through all of them. If you are not an affirmations person, heck, you don't even have to read through any of them, but you can pick and choose, delete the ones that you don't want. And that is your mindset pack. Again, if you ignore this, and we always know who ignored this versus the people who did it and who actually intentionally look at it each day, intentionally read it out loud or record themselves, listen to themselves reading through this, looking at the different things that they've accomplished. I know whether or not somebody has done this because it dramatically changes them in a very quick amount of time. So please do not sleep on this. This is such a valuable thing. It has helped so many folks so far. It is a combination. If you are somebody who needs proof, it is a combination of so many different brilliant minds. Not like this is something that was passed down to me. As I mentioned, I've been doing it since 2017. Psycho-Cybernetics is a great book to read if you want some of the more like factual science stuff backing this up. Because again, I get it sounds a little woo-woo, but all right, that is that. Now, I'm going to leave you with this really quick before we go. When people are going through this program, sometimes when they hit their upper limit of what they think they're capable of, they will start to think, maybe I should just do this instead. And they're not doing it because it's actually going to move them closer to becoming the best version of themselves. They're doing it because they're afraid of the growth that's required. They're afraid of whatever actions that they need to take to become the best version of themselves. So this is a thought exercise that a mentor shared with me. Actually, a mentor shared something very similar with Gaurav as well, where in my case, he sat me down and he said, all right, what are your goals? I had my mindset pack, so I knew all my goals for the year. I had my biography for like my life. I had all of these plans. And he goes, all right, what's the worst case scenario if that doesn't work out? You're not good enough. You're actually not good enough to achieve those things. What's the worst case scenario? I said, well, I could, kind of keep doing this thing, or I could go back to doing X, Y, Z. And he just looked at me. He goes, great. How's it feel to be living your worst case scenario right now? And it was such an eye-opening moment for me to realize that from that point forward, I really focused just on the inputs that I was putting in, the things that I could control, and just making those little tiny continuous progress steps. And then I knew the outputs would take care of themselves. And now, I'm doing what I thought I would be doing in retirement. It worked out exponentially better than I thought was possible. And we have heard the same from so many of your peers who have already gone through this program. So with that, I hope you are taking some time, setting aside some time to go through that mindset pack. If you have any questions, if there's anything at all that you need, just let us know and we can get started. I hope you guys are having a good one. Talk soon.